Hello, my name is Laura. Uh, I'm a naturalist user and I love iNaturalist. And inspired by the last global big day I did this May and this last weekend, I had an idea about doing something that is the idea to boost um the observations in a naturalist, but not in the same methodology as eBird does, because the app of eBird works different from our app, right? So I had some time to think, and I decided to mix it with. I was inspired to mix it with another of my passions, that is accessibility. And since then, in the next month or so, um, in my city we're going to have a Paralympic event. I decided to be like, oh, this could work in in naturalist setting, I think. So I would love if you take the time to see my presentation, and is my mind map of how I came with this idea. And I would love your feedback. And if you could like maybe see the potential to maybe we could do this as a group. That's what I would want. So my original idea was to call it Paralímpicos de Naturalist, but studying and reading about it, apparently I cannot use that word Paralympics, because even though I did took inspiration from the event that is taking place in my city, the name Paralympics is is an institutional name, and I should not use it. So I decided to change the name, and it's now called Naturaleza sin Límites, Nature Without Limits, and it will be my first challenge activity, and it will be great if you guys participate. So this is the idea. No todos percibimos la naturaleza de la misma manera. We don't all experience nature from in the same way. And I asked after that, what if we see it as an advantage? Now, that's the concept idea of how this whole thing started. But before that, I'm going to present to you who I am. Okay, who is what is Los Amigos de Betania? We are a family, and we are dedicate our time to regenerate and protect the tropical dry forest in La Serranía del Perijá in Colombia, in the department of Cesar. We are a project in a naturalist. We have a project called Los Amigos de Betania, and we believe in citizens, science, accessibility, and holistic health. What does that mean? That we cannot separate the health of the human being from the health of the environment. If Colombia has and the world, if your own city, your own town has a very healthy environment, your health also will improve. That's what we believe. So, with that concept, we took inspiration in the Juegos Paralímpicos Suramericanos de 2026 that are going to take place in July in Valledupar, my city. What do we want? We want to explore, explore the biodiversity of our own places, celebrate the diversity of our people, and promote accessibility. And you ask, how are you going to do that? So that's why the idea of Naturaleza sin Límites came about. Naturaleza sin Límites, Nature Without Limits, is a proposal to make nature, to make communities closer to their own nature, for them to appropriate their nature, right? And how? By playing. If is more enjoyable. And in this way, we can explore with these games. It's not just games, there are activities that makes possible to explore new methodologies to observe nature and promote accessibility by giving profound attention, new ways to record things in citizen science. I do want to point out that this is not to simulate any physical challenges or anything like that. It's not like you are going to put a walk with in a wheelchair. You're not going to be using a wheelchair. You're not going to be covering your eyes. That's not the objective of this challenge. I don't want to send that message. But what I want is that by taking appropriation of different ways of observing nature, we can also improve of the use of iNaturalist as an application, right? So what are these 5 challenges? These are my 5 challenges: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the first is sound, and we record birds, frogs, insects, whatever you want that makes a sound. And even if I'm not mistaken, some plants make sounds also. So that could be also a possibility. And how? With our cell phones or some special tools that we have. And for what? What does it do for iNaturalist? Well, it does help to boost observations of that type, audio observations, because sometimes, and I personally experience, I just take pictures and pictures and pictures, and I have like 5 maybe observations by sound. But if we dedicate one day to make this a challenge for ourselves, this could boost observations by audio. And what's the social benefit? The social benefit is to sensibility, to acknowledge and different type of audio challenges that people could have. And I worded this in a more professional way, I think, in this part, in which I say in inclusive perspective. And we see auditory perception as a legitimate tool of monitoring in Naturalist. And that way we improve the way we observe in the usual ways that we usually do, right? And what else? Not all walks are similar. It's where you will record. Okay, I'm having a hard time because my English is not the best, and these concepts I think are more complicated than just talking in general. But I hope it's understandable. But in this case, not all the ways, not all walks are the same. Not you. I want you to maybe use an app like Wikilog or any GPS app and record a route where you could find a walk that is inclusive, that it doesn't necessarily, it will be great, but it doesn't necessarily have to be for a person who uses wheelchair. It would be the best, but you think in someone that has less mobility than you, and think about that person. And if you think about that person and think, oh, if I could have my friend walk with me what fruit would I take. That's what I want you to think. And make that route. And you could use like any GPS or Wikilog. What's the utility of the challenge? It's called Diagnóstico Territorial Participativo, and that's a technical name that is hard for me to translate. But it's like diagnosing a, a territory by the common people, right? Citizens diagnosing and knowing their own place. And what does this help? Because with this data, citizens, they can be participate and even like ask their politicians to make more accessible places. If you know your own area, you have the tools to appropriate and create a change. That's what I believe. The next challenge is to let nature reach you, and this is a stationary observation. And this type of observation is to look for changes in time, behavioral patterns, and changes in 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 many small things, right? That way, we can use tools like macro photos and that type, and we can use tools like a clock or maybe a bitácora, a book to record behaviors in animals and plants. And that helps us to describe microhabitats and phenologic changes, which is also a very important part of doing science, I believe. So you for so far you see that some of these challenges are more scientific part and some others are more social side, but I think they all um, give iNaturalist very valid and quality information, and that's what we want. We want quality, we want detailed, we want informative, and we want that it's not only good for naturalists but also for the society. And the last two are to find the small and to um, annotate details. Now, go to the fourth one. I still don't have this in particular order, but I think um, we can talk about that later. But anyway, the fourth is the goal is to dedicate that day to macro observations like lichens, ants, very small insects, like very details of structures of these structures, like if you have the bark of a tree and stuff like that, and also uh, fungi. That's also something that is small. Anything in particular, anything that needs to be close to be able to observe, anything like that. And this is what I was saying before. This is more scientific kind of observations of challenge, but the social ones are also important. So both are important. And the last challenge is the fifth, and is annotate details. So in naturalist, the naturalist has a note option, a box to make annotations by the observer. And that's what I want to use in this particular challenge. So to any type of observation that you do, you have to annotate what you saw, what you felt, and what surrounded, what was the context around it. So I put a small example. Imagine you have like a little bird, a picture of a little bird. This is a bird. It's an ugly bird, but it's still a bird. And you have yes, this is a bird. You have the picture of a very small bird, and that's your picture. And sometimes, and this is what I do, I just upload the picture. I don't do anything else. But in this type, you are going to annotate. Not you. No, I'm not talking about the scientific name, because let's say I identify this as a Traupis episcopus. This is a Traupis episcopus. That's the scientific name. Identify it, right? But in the annotations, I have to describe it. So what I saw a bluebird of a small size, and the color, and what I felt, the color reminds me of the blue of the sky. I don't know, something poetic. You can write whatever you want. I'm not that poetic, clearly, but I want you to describe what you saw and what you felt. So you saw a bluebird with small size sitting in a tree, and the color remind me of the blue of the sky. And the context, it was feeding the baby it had, and it would fly to the banana tree, take a little bit of banana, and then fly back to the nest. That's what I want you to describe. In that way, and why is useful, and why that's useful for a naturalist, because promotes detailed observations and accessible observations. Because when you write the description of the image, you also help different type of accessibilities for the people who don't necessarily are very good at watching images in the cell phones they have, right? And it promotes metadata, which means it's not just the picture, it's all the context that was around it. What tools can you use for this challenge that I recommend to use for this challenge? You can use AI to help you generate the text for the images. If you are not, like, if you don't know what to write, like how to describe an image for the blind people, for example, you can use AI. For example, I use Gemini or Copilot a lot. I ask them, Gemini, Copilot, please describe this image, for a description of this image for the blind person. And that's what you could use. That's a useful tool. So yeah, you can't it's a very good challenge, I think. I hope you like it, and I hope you want to participate. Yeah,